Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Transport Minister Frankie Campbell flares up his confusing comments about holding 2 passports.
The young man believed to be responsible for that murder on Cat Island faces his day in court.
The University of the Bahamas hosting a prisoner symposium. Find out what they say the correlation is between crime and education.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, the 27-year-old man accused of killing and robbing a 74-year-old American woman in Cat Island was arraigned in the magistrate's court today. Georgia Bain has the details.
A 27-year-old native of Cat Island believed to be responsible for the murder of a woman described as the sweetest woman you could ever meet on the island of Cat Island earlier this week faces his day in court. 27-year-old Rodrigo Nigel Roll of Orange Creek, Cat Island, stood before Magistrate Andrew Forbes in court number 8 to answer to 3 charges, including the murder of 74-year-old American Janice Kessinger. Kessinger was a resident of Cat Island for 17 years and worked as a caretaker. It is alleged that on Friday, September 29th, Roll, by means of unlawful harm, did intentionally cause the elderly woman's death. On the second count, it is alleged that Roll, while armed with an offensive instrument, namely a knife, did rob Kessinger of a safe valued at $500, one Rolex watch valued at $5,000, and one 2006 Ford Explorer valued at $12,500, the property of Frank and Gabby Wolf. Roll was also charged with burglary. It is alleged that he did unlawfully break and enter the dwelling home of Frank and Gabby Wolf in Sanders Cove, North Cat Island, with the intent to commit a felony. Roll, who is currently on bail for another serious offense, was not required to enter a plea to the charges and was denied bail. Roll asked the magistrate if he could speak. When granted permission, he showed the court several visible wounds on his wrists, abdomen, and a gash at the bottom of his foot. Roll said he never gave a statement to police, but was beaten and forced to do so. He requested to see a doctor, to which the magistrate granted permission. Roll also alleged that he was forced by police to masturbate into a tub and forced to put his handprint on several different items. Forbes told Roll that he would have his time to tell his story on a later date. Roll was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on November 30th to be presented with a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for our news, I'm Georgia Bain.
Police reporting that a man who was shot along Ida Street on Sunday has died. According to reports, the man, while sitting in a vehicle, was approached by 2 gunmen who shot him before fleeing in a gray Chrysler vehicle. The victim died at 5 this morning. Investigations are ongoing. In other news, Southern Shore's Member of Parliament Frankie Campbell addressing the controversy surrounding his recent claim that he is the holder of 2 passports. In the House of Assembly this morning, he held up the 2 passports in question while insisting he is as Bahamian as conch salad. Jasmine Brown reports.
While I am not at all in any way, form, or fashion ashamed or embarrassed of my Haitian heritage, I want to say to the good people of Southern Shores, who I have the privilege to serve, that Frankie Alfred Campbell is as Bahamian as conch salad.
Questions were raised about Campbell's heritage after a clip of the minister's recent guest appearance on Zadna's talk show, Daryl Miller Live, was widely shared on social media. In that clip, the minister revealed that his Haitian mother came to the Bahamas illegally on a boat and hid in a cemetery overnight. Campbell, who is also the Minister for Transport, displayed the 2 passports in question for all to see, one of which was a diplomatic passport. He explained that he first obtained a diplomatic passport in 2010 when he was stationed in Haiti.
Yes, I said I have 2 passports. Yes, I do. You see, with God's grace, having been appointed to the Bahamas Embassy in Port-au-Prince, Haiti in September of 2010, on the 26th day of September 2010, I was issued a diplomatic passport. That passport had a 10-year lifespan. Upon my being recalled from Haiti, No one asked for the passport. It was still valid, Mr. Speaker. I kept the passport, Mr. Speaker. I didn't use or abuse it, but I kept it as a source of pride and accomplishment. And then, God being the good God that He is, upon my appointment on the 15th of May as the Minister of Transport and Local Government, the passport office again issued me a diplomatic passport.
Campbell then insisted he has never in his life had to defend his heritage.
I find it amazing that in my 50 years of existence, I've never had to defend my attachment to my heritage. Mr. Speaker, science has advanced to the extent where parents are able to choose the color of the eyes of their children, choose the sex of their children, and other physical attributes. But to my knowledge, there has been no science that helps to decide for a child who his or her parents will be. And to that extent, I give thanks to Almighty God for who my parents are.
Before wrapping up that part of his impassioned speech, the minister then sent out a challenge for any foreign embassy in the Bahamas to supply whomever requests it with proof that he held any other travel document or citizenship other than for the Bahamas. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar comparing web shops to cartels. While making his contribution in the House of Assembly this morning, de Aguilar spoke of the challenges this controversial industry and what needs to be done to ensure there is a level playing field for all involved and interested.
I've had a chance to review the financial statements of the gaming houses, and the profits reporting are eye-popping. With a moratorium in place to prevent any new companies from entering the market, the 8 remaining gaming houses continue to enjoy the benefits of being a cartel.
Web shop gaming in the Bahamas, according to the Minister of Tourism, is complex, but at the moment he says it's being controlled by big boys who appear to be buying out all of the little guys.
In addition, there is consolidation underway among the gaming houses, where the biggest players seemingly gobbling up the smaller players. And while there may be 8 gaming houses in the public domain, some of the gaming houses have the same owners. With the gaming houses being so cash-rich and the government being so cash-strapped, fulfilling its requests for social services and education, I'm sure that the Minister of Finance will be looking to enhance his tax revenues from this sector.
De Aguilar has already said the 10-year moratorium that prevents the government from even considering expanding the web shop industry beyond the 8 operators is anti-competitive. He said while there are only 8 licenses, some of these gaming houses have the same operator. But there's also the practice where gaming houses, to an extent, take the place of banks, where deposits are made to one account and someone makes a withdrawal at another location.
Mr. Speaker, this is worrying because this type of unregulated cash movement without any KYC, know your customer regimes in place, will surely, at some time, set off some alarm somewhere in the world in one of those organizations that can put us on some list, typically known as the blacklist, and injure our ability to conduct banking relationships overseas. As such, Mr. Speaker, the Gaming Board will consult with the authorities of the Central Bank to determine how best to move forward on this issue.
Just last week, Long Island MP Adrian Gibson called on government to intervene and close down many of the web shops in his constituency, saying they're ruining the lives of many who can't control their gaming habit. De Aguilar sent this word out to web shop operators.
We all know that many Bahamians are addicted to gaming, playing numbers and participating in casino-type games like spinning all day and night, much to the detriment of their families and their own financial well-being. The Gaming Board will be pushing the gaming houses to become more creative in controlling out-of-control gambling. After all, if they are smart enough to get Bahamians to gamble more, then surely the gaming houses have the smarts to control chronic gamblers.
De Aguilar said another thing he was baffled to find was the salaries of some workers at the Gaming Board. In particular, 4 employees who took home $600,000 annually.
There was one individual taking home in excess of $150,000, and there were numerous other senior executives earning between $80,000 and $100,000 per annum. And shortly before and shortly after the general election, the previous board and management were conducting a salary review and proposing some new salary scales, which were eye-popping because I am a cabinet minister and I only make $71,000.
A 2016 study at the University of the Bahamas suggests a stark correlation between crime and education. Our Jared Higgs tells us more about the findings that involve the cooperation of 350 inmates.
The more education you have, the less likely you are to be involved in crime and criminal activities. And the less education you have, the more likely you are to be involved in crime and criminal activities.
That's Dr. Pandora Johnson, one of the university researchers tasked with presenting papers which examine various aspects of prisoners' lives at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Dr. Johnson's portion of the study focused on the relationship education has with different crimes.
Many of our persons who are engaged, let's say, in crimes against the property, are persons who did not complete high school, which means that they had less than 12 years of formal education. What we found, what was interesting too, was that persons who were incarcerated because of some act involving drugs, these are the ones who had more education, suggesting maybe that it's the clever people who are involved in some form of drug activity.
Dr. Johnson says there's also a correlation between education and income. The higher the level, the more you make. And of course, when you don't finish high school, what options do you really have?
And so that limits your level of income. And you live in a society where the focus is on material things. But you don't have the income to buy those material things. But our society has said that you are defined by those material things. So how do I get those material things? I may have to resort to some kind of illegal activity. And so there again is the connection between education and the involvement in crime.
With a lower level of educational attainment suggesting a higher likelihood of committing a violent crime, Dr. Johnson says it would stand to reason that we would invest more in our schools and communities.
As the investment in crime goes up, like in crime mechanisms, like the police, like technology, those investments go up, the investment in education goes down. Because the monies now are being drawn from education to focus on security, because the population is concerned about security. When you look though, it's really important to focus on education because of course when you look at violent crime, it's generally committed by those persons who didn't complete high school.
The study was conducted in conjunction with the Inter-American Development Bank, and the information presented is based on the unsubstantiated claims of prisoners. Reporting for our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Still to come on our news, the tourism minister says Bahamian delays cost the country millions. The details are after this break.